look at the person next to you. Say, God loves you and I love you too. Feel the love and the unity. Lift your voice and repeat after me. We come together. We come together. We come together. In the name of love. We come together. We come together. We come together. In the name of love. Now look at the person next to you. Say, I recognize the God in you. Feel the love and the unity. Lift your voice and repeat after me. We come together.
We come together.
We come together.
Come together.
We come together.
Come together in the name of love.
We come together.
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 We come together in
In
the
the name of love. From every walk of life, every creed and color, in kinship we unite. In honor of God in each other. Ah, yes, so take a
Look at the person next to you.
Say namaste, I bow to you.
Namaste, I bow to you.
Feel the love and the unity.
Feel the love and the unity.
Lift your voice and repeat after me. We come together.
We come together.
We come together.
We come
We
together.
come together.
We come together in the name of love.
We come together.
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 We come together in the name of love. Yeah, you can clap if you like. Lovely to see everyone. Happy belated St. Patrick's Day, which is a holy day of obligation, of course, and I didn't see any of you on Friday. Just saying, unless you were over at O'Grady's, maybe. No? Okay, well, anyway. I was here saying me prayers, of course. All right, so it's good to have you joining us here in the sanctuary. Good to have you join us there at home on the Love Stream. And I'm joined today with Teresa James, our musical inspiration. You're going to love what she brings us today. And our own wonderful Reverend Kathy Lyons, who is the mistress of the animal ministry here at Granada Hills. All right. And welcome to our two young ladies also. Nice to have you there. Our four young ladies, sorry. Of course. All right, so let's take a deep conscious breath together. What do you say? And just release. And on that release, just allow ourselves to set aside the busyness, the cares, concerns, the hustle and the bustle to get here today. And just claim this moment as our own as we come together for our call to service, which we call Lighting the Flames of Faith. And we perform this ceremony to promote the universal consciousness of life, which acknowledges that all peoples, all faiths, all sentient beings come from the one great universal presence, which we call Spirit. Now, fundamental to this truth is the unifying nature of all religious thought and experience, which we honor here this morning. So as Reverend Kathy lights the first candle, it's for the Tao, honoring the universal path of harmony and equilibrium, the natural way. We light the second candle for shamanic traditions, honoring the beliefs and practices of all indigenous peoples, the way of primal spirituality. We light the third candle for Hinduism, honoring the path of knowledge, action, and devotion. The fourth candle we light for Judaism, honoring the ethical path of living by sacred law. We light the fifth candle for for all forms of Buddhism, honoring the Four Noble Truths and the path of compassion. We light the sixth candle for all forms of Christianity, honoring the Christ consciousness as the path of love. We light the seventh candle for all forms of Islam, honoring the path of submission to the will of God as the highest calling. The eighth candle we light for the universalistic religion of Baha'i, honoring the path of unity and peace. The ninth candle we light for all forms of New Thought, honoring the metaphysical path of mental healing through the practice of universal spiritual principles. The 10th candle we light for all those who are as yet unaware of the power and presence of Spirit in their lives, for the space we hold for them here in our sanctuary, within our online community, and of course within our own hearts. And now as Reverend Kathy lights the healing candle, please put silently into the light the names of anyone you wish to have experience the healing flame of God's eternal love.
There is one flame that burns in our hearts. There is one light that shines through our love. We light this flame with faith. We find this light within our own soul. There is one flame, one light within.
So join me, please, as I speak in the I am for everyone here and online. I recognize that there is that one flame of love and faith. And I recognize that I am one with that flame of faith, that flame just indwells within me because the presence of God is everywhere and God is all that there is. So I declare that this service, this celebration today, is a perfect idea in the mind of God. I know that God expresses through Reverend Mike, through Teresa, Mike, Evan, everyone here, and everyone online is just feeling that presence of God, that heartfelt feeling of love and joy and peace and faith, and knowing and affirming right now that I'm here to celebrate that God presence within me. And so right now I am so grateful, I am so happy and appreciative for everyone here and online, and for that love, faith, peace, and joy that I'm experiencing right now. So I release my word to the law. It is done, it is so, and together we say, and so it is. Good morning, everybody, and belated happy St. Patrick's Day. As Reverend Mike expressed, I wore green today, even though it was St. Patrick's Day was 2 days ago. And for today's creative thought, I'd like to quote from Edwene Gaines in her book, The 4 Spiritual Laws of Prosperity. Setting goals is a great accomplishment, but actually taking practical steps but it requires taking practical steps outside of your comfort zone. As many of you know, I have planned my life dream of going to Europe in the near future, and it's something that I've desired for a long time. But I have to admit that I'm feeling a little bit of nervousness about doing something totally new. I don't know anything about this tour, but I've affirmed in knowing that everything unfolds and I'm having an awesome time. But I will admit that there's a little bit of nervousness about getting there. I'm not afraid of flying airplanes are probably safer than cars. The thing of it is just I was feeling a little bit of dread. Getting to the airport, checking in, the 10-hour flight, and then I have a 5-hour layover in Copenhagen. All of these things. And I was feeling like kind of an attitude like, oh boy, I wish that there was a way, maybe technology will be able to do this sometime where we can automatically just get in one place within seconds. You know, like when we send a text. Wasn't there, I think there was a science fiction movie in the 50s like that. But anyway, I found that taking some action steps actually helped. Yesterday, I investigated the freeway flyer, which is like 5 minutes from my house. And through the airline, I was able, Scandinavian Airlines has an option. I can pay a little bit extra to use a lounge that they have. So I know that I'm going to have a great time. I'll bring my iPad, maybe a little drawing pad to draw my cat pictures. So I'm knowing that everything's unfolding with ease. And I'm glad that I'm taking this step forward, because one of the things I've learned in my life that when I move outside of my comfort zone, when I do something that and taking steps and stretching myself, I feel like the universe really rewards that. You know, Ernest Holmes says, treat and move your feet. And so the combination of the two really does transform one's life. So, Ed Ringaines also says it is vital that you learn to step outside the realm where you feel personally comfortable. So I'm just knowing for myself and for everyone here, stretch yourself to do something new, and because I know that I'm feeling the rewards of that. Thank you for letting me share.
Midwest morning, October snowfall. She packed her Chevrolet. She brushed the fear away. She's got great big dreams and a history of playing small. Everybody seemed to think she'd be back before Christmas Day. She hit that highway with every ounce of faith that she could summon. When courage finally comes, you'll never see it coming. Right out of nowhere, you open your heart, and that changes everything. You're going somewhere, and all you need to know is that you're free. Summer night, the soft smell of seashore. All the deadheads are dancing out on the beach. He's got a great big tan in his own little junk store. He said, some people got a lot to prove, and that's the way I used to be. But now I'm just an old hippie with half a dozen PhDs. Some choices hold you down, and some chances set you free. Then right out of nowhere, you open your heart and let go of everything, and you're going somewhere. And all you need to know is that you're free. Clear. Pray and the angels will hear. Leap and the net will appear. nowhere. You open your heart, believe in everything, and you're going somewhere. And all you need to know is that you're free. And right out of nowhere, you open your heart and have faith in everything, then you're going somewhere. And all you need to know is that you're free to go. You're free to go.
Thank you, Teresa. Great. We have a few announcements. Practitioners are available in the treatment room for our 2-minute tune-up. And any practitioners here, raise your hands. So if there's anything that you desire to create in your life, or it doesn't have to be a challenge, see one of us for that 2-minute tune-up. It can, just 2 minutes can transform your life. Also, there's practitioners available online at CSLGH.org. Welcome back to Youth Church, first and third Sundays at 10:30 a.m. Contact Reverend Nicole at CSLGHNICOLE@gmail.com. And today at 1 o'clock online, I host the Animal Kinship Group. If you love animals and have some heartwarming stories to share, whatever it is, if you just want to talk animals, and it doesn't matter, usually it's dogs or cats, but it can be any type of, any species. On Facebook, there was a post, somebody who was grieving the loss of their tarantula. So we can, it wouldn't be my choice, but there was heartfelt. I'm a cat person mostly. So my cat would probably eat it. Anyway, no, but I support anybody who has, the bereavement support group is on March 26th. Email Reverend Jessica at reverendjessicafish@icloud.com. And also Sunday, March 26th, is the Law of Attraction group. And Emily, one of our congregants, hosts that class, and she can be reached at joyvibrations@gmail.com. And on Sunday, April 2nd, there's going to be an Easter egg hunt. So that sounds like a lot of fun. And again, contact Reverend Nicole by email. Thank you very much. And now let's stand for our Declaration of Principles. We believe in one universal spirit, manifesting through all, natural and incarnated in us. We believe that the universal spirit is personal to and reveals itself through everyone who recognizes its presence. We believe that our faith operates upon a law of mind, which automatically manifests in our experience according to that faith. We believe in the unity of all life and in the immortality of the individual soul forever expanding. We believe in the eternal goodness, the eternal loving kindness, and the givingness of life to all.
Now sing with me.
So I have leftover Science of Mind magazines that I've had up here for the last 2 weeks that I'd like to give away. So if you'd like a Science of Mind magazine, just see Reverend Kathy and she will get one to you. All right? And keep an eye out for April because we don't have many April birthdays. Yeah, that means someone's going to get a magazine. All right. So today's talk title, Boundaries Build Bridges. So this fellow, Reverend Alan Vukas out of Rhode Island, he's come up with some odd talk titles this month. But this one will make a lot more sense than maybe some of the others have. We'll see how I do. So the March theme is cultivating authenticity, tying into our annual theme of living out loud. And I'd also like to just say, I love that Reverend Kathy often quotes Reverend Catherine Ponder, who's a big prosperity. Gosh, she's written a lot of books, huh?
That was Edwin Gaines.
I'm sorry, Edwin Gaines, yes. But you also do Ponder a lot. Yeah. Edwin Gaines, yes, prosperity. She's all about prosperity. Yeah, like all about prosperity. Anyway, so nicely done, because we do have our 4T prosperity class going on, and that's going along nicely. Dr. Maureen is facilitating that. I know many of you are taking that class. And the thing that's great about if you're starting to experience some prosperity in your own life and you're not in the class, you can thank the 4T, the consciousness of the 4T group that is raising the prosperity consciousness of all of us. So I say thank you. Because I got to go to a concert last night, the first time we've been out. So, it's been 3 years, March 16th. It was 3 years. That was our annual meeting, was the last time we had met before the lockdown. So here we are 3 years later. It seemed like, oh my gosh, it was a trying time. But well, it's a dark cloud indeed that doesn't have some good in it. So, we've got a whole online community going now as a result of that, which means there's a lot more room here for you to bring your friends to in person. So don't be shy. If you like what we're doing here and you know friends who it would resonate to, bring them in. If nothing else, they can, of course, they'll have to play nicely with the kids, but we are having an Easter egg hunt going on. All right, so this idea of cultivating authenticity, and that boundaries build bridges. So I have this image that I'd like to share around building bridges. Yes. Nothing? I get nothing? Jeez. So this was me in my last life, by the way. I fell off the bridge there soon after. That's at Golden Gate Bridge. So Bob Luckin did this thing for me. Anyway. So I thought that would go over a lot better, but apparently not. So cultivating authenticity, which you guys are being very authentic this morning, and I applaud that. Involves us releasing those patterns of thought, attitudes, and actions that act as barriers to us standing in our personal truth and power. So, when we talk about authenticity, what we are really after is to discover who we really are. And it's about uncovering, discovering, and embracing truth. And truth is power. Truth is power. So when we are working into authenticity, that's really what we're at. We're at accessing more power. And by taking up this practice, we develop courage to be vulnerable to stand in that truth. So this month, we will continue to explore parts of the practice of authenticity then, as it ties into this notion of living out loud. And we do a tremendous disservice to the world by not being our authentic self. Last week we talked about the many ways in which we wear masks, right? The real gift of who you are is who you are, regardless of what your judgments around that is. So the question for folks like us who come to places like this is, are we really living our truth as we know it to be today? Now that doesn't mean to be, I thought I was going to be the CEO of a major corporation by now, right? It could be that, but it could also be not being shy around someone to tell them, oh, gee, you really look nice today. Or you have boy, you sure have a nice countenance, right? Without being creepy, of course. But you know what I'm saying. You've had that experience, right? Where, wow, that person, they hit you a certain way and then we walk away, God, I should have told them how nice they look today. That's what I'm talking about, right? So if we're feeling it like in here, why not just, without being a creep about it, like, hey, you're really looking good today. You may not want to do it that way. But you could say, wow, that color really looks good on you. That gets a less creepy look from people. All right. Because we're doing the world a disservice by not being more open-hearted. Let's just say it that way. Holmes would say that the divine pattern, well, he did say it, the divine pattern would be imperfect without you or without me. Dare to be ourselves. Stand in wonder before the majesty and might, the beauty and power of the divine presence which seeks expression through your and my individual life. Now this is something. This is cooking with gas, man. Not that Texas gas, that expensive gas, our local gas. You hear that, Texas? This is playing with the creative impulse of life, where we are intuitively guided into ways of being and doing and expressing our greatest self with confidence, grace, and ease. Now, in my own consideration of authenticity, I've been wondering if some folks just don't come by it naturally, right? Maybe you've known people like that. And I suspect that we are all this way until we get to be about school age, right? Maybe 3 or 4, maybe 5, where the process of socialization begins. And this can be a painful readjustment for both the child and the parent and the teacher, maybe sometimes even. For the child to navigate the minefield of expectations being thrust upon them, and for the parent trying to help their child to learn the ropes of life, without having their heart, or worse, their spirit, broken in the process. And then sometimes as parents, we have to step back and watch our kids face the consequences of their choices, right? Sometimes good, yay. Sometimes not so good. Oh, no, I wish you wouldn't do that, right? But choices that we know they need to make because we don't want our kids to grow up to be wilted lilies, right? We want resiliency. Right? We want them to grow strong, to be able to weather the vicissitudes of life, right? When eventually that's going to come upon us. So sometimes as parents, we have to figure out how to do that. Skillful parents do, of course. But That's also like, what have you done for me lately kind of thing too in parenting, yeah? So, or maybe that's what junior high school is for, I don't know. Making us more resilient. So looking back as adults, we can all identify moments of challenge and victory that have been formative in who we are today, right? The good, the bad, the ugly. And I would do that Clint Eastwood whistle if I could, but I can't. It is our ability, but it is our ability to integrate these experiences that make us interesting, that make us more interesting to others. Now, finding our way to authenticity as adults can sometimes be tricky business, right? So I was thinking about how when you grow up in the military, you're often moved around a lot. I was lucky in that I only had to do that I had to do it twice. Once when I was like in the first grade with Catholic school. And then came out to California in junior high. So it's a big adjustment, right? You don't know anybody. You got to find your own way. And I know for military kids, some of them have to move around a lot. Particularly, like the Army seems to move around a lot. But what if we grew up in a small town? With the expectations that go on in a small town. What if we grew up in a small town with a reputation? Right? And years later, when we have worked hard, we've got all our ducks in a row, and then life happens. We lose a job, a business deal goes south, our parents need extra care perhaps, the rental we're living in gets sold and we have to move unexpectedly, our kids are struggling in some way, or our relationship takes a sharp left that we weren't anticipating, or maybe even we take a sharp left in our relationship, which we weren't expecting. So we get into these situations, and knowing we live in an infinite field of possibilities, a field of infinite possibilities, it can feel like a field of infinite expectations. As we feel like we're being pulled more and more and more into someone else's life, or into the lives that others think we should be living. Now, the only way out of that is to find ways to identify boundaries. So in this way, boundaries become a tool where we create space for ourselves in the beginning. We're creating space for ourselves. Now, a boundary, according to the Cambridge, I should have showed you that while I was yakking. Isn't that beautiful? That's Mount Hood in the background, one of the bridges of Portland. So a boundary, this is out of the Cambridge Dictionary, is a real or imagined line that marks the edge or limit of something. So when I read this, I was thinking about, as you know, I like to watch YouTube a lot, and they were interviewing one of the older astronauts. And I think it was Apollo 8 was the first time man flew around the moon. I think maybe even orbited a couple times. But the first time we got a look at the Earth rise rather than the moon rise, where we saw this beautiful blue orb set into this field of velvet black space. And the astronaut was talking about the mystical experience that he had observing the Earth in this way and seeing it all as one thing, one unified whole. No little lines of where the countries are, right? So these boundaries, of course, are a construct, a mental construct. right? And boundaries within our own psychology, our own expression of life. These too are mental constructs. Now, some boundaries may have some flexibility in them. But boundaries that are set in principle, right? Those are ways of being that we just say this and no further. So I was thinking about this and wondering where I was going to take it, and then I saw the movie The Banshees of Inisherin, which, how many people have seen this movie? Oh, not very many. Really? Only 3 people? Well, I love the movie because I realized, oh, that looks familiar. And I stuck around for the credits, and sure enough, it was filmed partly in the area where my mom is from, on Ackle. And, but it's a weird movie. Yes, those who've seen it. It's a weird movie, right? Oh, you got to see this movie. I was like, oh, great. Let me go watch a little Darby O'Gill. Well, it's not that. It's not Darby O'Gill. It's and it was nominated as a comedy, right? Which is kind of crazy, unless you think donkeys choking on fingers is funny, but that was a spoiler alert, by the way. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about the movie. If you don't want to know, then just plug your ears, and I won't look at you either, so you can't lip read. But really, what this is, it's a morality play in the challenge of setting and maintaining boundaries. That's what I really think it is. So in this little village, which is a common experience even today, but certainly then in the 20s, when people really didn't wander more than maybe 20 miles from where they were born, these 2 fellows came up together, and now they're in their, one character is probably in his 40s, the other in his 60s. The older fellow, who's also a fiddler, decides he's had enough of hanging out with this guy. And so he presses him. Well, why? I've been having a pint with you since at 2 o'clock every day for years. Well, he didn't want to say. Well, finally he just said, you're dull. You're boring. I don't want to waste 1 more hour of my life hanging out with you. I mean, he could not have been more plain. The next day, the fellow comes by at 2 o'clock. Are you not coming down for a pint? No. And so he gets pushed, and finally he says, listen, I'm not your friend anymore. Right? Nothing personal, but you're just kind of dull-like. And if you don't stop bothering me, I'm going to cut my fingers off. I'm going to cut my finger off. And if you don't stop, I'll cut off every finger until you stop. So, and of course, he's perplexed, right? So he goes around and he's asking people, oh, do you think I'm dull? And of course, everybody's looking at the dirt, kind of, right? Because he thought it was enough to just be a good guy. So I suppose that works into the conversation or the contemplation also because of the way the movie ends up. But needless to say, he presses and presses and presses and won't take no for an answer. Have you ever tried to set a boundary with someone and had that experience? Right? So what can I do? Well, what this guy did was he took his shears and he sheared his finger off and threw it at his front door. That's pretty drastic. But the thing is, boundaries that are long neglected, right? It doesn't get easier to set the boundary, right? That's kind of the lesson there. That the easier, softer way is to set boundaries with folks as you go along. Really, I think as we discover them, right? That I'm no longer, Reverend Elizabeth Schneider used to talk about, living in a toleration-free zone. Looking at ways in which in our life, what are we tolerating? rather than living our life? Are we tolerating our life? As Holmes wrote last week, are we enduring our life or are we living it? So boundaries become really a tool for us to not only create more space in our own life, but to really create space for a deeper conversation so that the experience of life that we're all longing to have, which has connection in it and has depth and so forth, that there's more space in that. Now, I think the thing that's difficult about setting a boundary is that we can often end up in an argument, right? As like these characters did, they found themselves entangled in how to navigate the boundary. Can you put that forward for me? So Brené Brown says, when we fail to set boundaries and hold people accountable, right? So it's not enough to just say I have a boundary, but now I have to maintain it, right? Hold people accountable. If we don't do that, we feel used, misused, and mistreated. And this is why we sometimes attack who they are, which is far more hurtful than addressing a behavior or a choice. And we can see how this plays out not only in our own individual lives, but also within the macro world, where people have been talking over each other for the last 6 or 7 years, not just in the States, but globally. Right? We're not going to create the connection that we want by talking over each other, yeah? So while physical boundaries can act as walls, when we communicate our boundaries, really instead of building a wall, we are creating a clear path for others to connect with us. That we're creating, this boundary then is a bridge to intimacy, where we are creating space for each to have an expression, and from a place of empathy, right? So from a place of trying to understand, really understand where someone is coming in a particular position, and to get to a place where, well, I can see how you could feel that way. I see your point. Now, you may not agree with it. They may not agree with your point of view. But there is a deeper understanding. And so when we say, well, we're going to have to agree to disagree, for instance, it's not some dismissive thing, but we actually know, okay, I actually, I don't agree with this person around X, Y, or Z, but I really like them and I like being around them. So if I can comfortably, without maintaining my own authentic life, be around them and avoid, these potholes, that would be a good thing. We practice that every Thanksgiving Day with the family. Boundaries allow for clear communication. They create spaces for deeper conversation because they become places of safety. Right? Now, not everyone is invested in creating spaces of safety. Well, that is your boundary. I'm done hanging out with clowns. Or whatever. I guess I just called them a name. Whatever that is. But I think what we find is when we really work at a deeper understanding in relationship this way, whether it's within a business relationship or within our more intimate relationships, is that we're no longer tolerating anything. What we really have is a much more broad idea of what friendship is and that we come to appreciate people's differences in the same way that we appreciate different flowers. Some have fragrance, some have color, some have thorns, right? Certainly all different colors, shapes, and sizes. And then it's also important to understand when we're setting these boundaries. So imagine you're in business and you have no boundaries, right? You're not going to be very profitable, right? In my own, the one gift real gift that I got out of the 4T prosperity program was to stop people pleasing in my business arrangements, because I was, in a service business. I was a general contractor, right? And people always want stuff for nothing, always. Think of any contractor you've ever hired, right? Oh my God, I've spent all this money. I should at least be able to get this. Well, you don't get that from Macy's. Well, I just spent $600 on a refrigerator. You ought to throw in a new couch. We don't think that way, right? But that can only happen if we let people treat us that way, right? We teach people. That's what I learned out of 4T, right? The universe cannot pay an invoice I don't present. A customer cannot pay a change order I don't present. And if I negotiate on what's owed, that's not the customer's fault. Right? You'll be surprised how profitable your ventures can be with that perspective. So I see the light, fellas. Okay, so you rob no person. You rob no person when you discover your own good. You limit no person when you express a greater degree of livingness. You hinder no person's evolution when you consciously enter the kingdom of your good and possess it today. So I'll tell you one key shift that I had in the 4T program. When I realized that the world needed me to be a contractor to the world. Because I knew I was honest, knew what I was doing, knew that my pricing was fair, knew that I was respectful to my clients, to their property, that I had a relatively decent crew if they didn't drink too much the night before. In other words, I realized my own value. So let's stop there and take a breath. And I'm going to ask you today to consider, to realize your own value. You can tinkle there if you want. So maybe it's in relationship. I'm using, business is easy, right? Because you can measure. There's an impersonalness to it also. But in our relationships, our friendships, am I being valued? How have I taught others to value me? And if we're making choices around that, we can be gentle with ourselves and acknowledge that we're making those choices, but we're doing them in a conscious way. So I choose to be this way because I value myself, and this is in my highest and best today. Or today is the day the Lord has made. And I step into it now, and I rejoice it fully and completely. And so I look for ways to identify and accept the value that I bring to the world, for I am a unique expression of that divine expression of life, and so is everyone else. That I matter, and so does everyone else. And so as we go through our day today, let's practice identifying the ways in which we are valued and value others. And come back next week and compare notes with each other.
Another Monday comes, I just want to breathe. 'Cause it's a long, long week for someone wired to please. I keep taking my aim, pushing it higher, wanna shine bright, even brighter now. I wish I could tell myself, don't try so hard. God gives you grace, you can't earn it. Don't think that you're not worth it, because you are. He gave you love and it's not leaving. Gave you the world so you'd believe it. You're lovely even with your scars. Don't try so hard. Do you remember how the summer felt when we were kids? Yeah, we didn't think too much about it. We just lived, taking our time, beautiful leisure. When did we start trying to measure up? And all this time love's been trying to tell us, don't try so hard. God gives you grace and you can't earn it. Just don't think that you're not worth it, because you are. God gave you love and it's not leaving. Gave you a soul so you believe it. You're lovely even with your scars. Don't try so hard. Don't try so hard. God gives you grace. You can't earn it. Don't think that you're not worth it, because you are. He gave you a soul so you believe it. Don't think that not leaving. You're lovely even with your scars. Lovely just the way you are. So open up your lovely heart. Don't try so hard. Don't try so hard.
Teresa James, everyone, let's show her some love in the chat, some love in the room. Nicely done, thank you. All right, so as we prepare our gifts for the offering, if you've brought them in with you today, if you're in the 4T, make sure you make a notation on your offering. And for those of you who are joining us online, if you'd make a notation on your gift when you go on to PayPal, that it's for the 4T Prosperity Program. That you can just put 4T on there. We'll figure it out from there. All right, so let's do a couple of verses. Come on up when you're ready.
Spirit gives through me, Spirit receives through me, Spirit lives and breathes through me, Spirit lives and breathes through me. Spirit gives through us, Spirit receives through us, Spirit lives and breathes through us. Oh, Spirit lives and breathes through us.
So let's take a breath. Going within for just a moment longer, recognizing that this basket represents the many ways in which your generosity finds its way to our center, whether it's through your mail-in donations, through bill pay, through PayPal, or here in person at the center, that all of it, all of your gifts are a demonstration of the generosity of the giver. That person who knows and knows that they know that God is our source, our substance, our supply. This basket also represents the heart of this spiritual community as we accept these gifts with deep love and respect, knowing they go forth to heal, to prosper, and to bless not only this Center for Spiritual Living, but anyone connected to it in any way. Then from this place of gratitude, then, we now extend a blessing upon our community for prosperity, peace, harmony, serenity, or this area known as Granada Hills, our city of Los Angeles, our state of California, our United States of America, all of its churches, temples, mosques, schools, universities, the people who attend them, the people who support them, that we know for our planet as well that all of it is a living demonstration of the creative impulse of life with all of its infinite intelligence and love. And to the extent that we know this to be so, we see it. We see it demonstrating in ways great and small. This lifts our heart. We feel a sense of grace and power that both propels us into and allows us to be pulled by a vision of life that raises not only our own life, but the lives of those around us. And that's a good thing. And together we acknowledge this by saying, and so it is. Amen. So thank you all for being here. Thank you for joining us online. If this is your first time joining us, please hit the subscribe button and consider joining our community. You can be an online member and saying hello to Thibaut out there in France if you're watching today, and any of my relatives in the UK or Ireland. So it's kind of fun knowing that you're on. All right, let's give it up one more time for Teresa James. And the wonderful Reverend Kathy will pray us out, and don't let your cat eat my talk.
She's clawed on my Science of Mind textbook. So she's embodied all those principles, which cats already embody them. So let's just join together. As I speak in the first person, recognizing and knowing that presence, power, and life, which is God's life and my life now, and that God is that love and worthiness and inner trust, and I am one with God, one with its love, worthiness, and inner trust. So I hereby proclaim right now, right now that I am loving, worthy, and I trust that everything in my life is unfolding magnificently. And so I just have this immense gratitude right now for all the blessings, all the love, all the trust in my life right now. And so I now release my word to the law. I know it is done, I know it is so, and together we say, and so it is.
All right, you guys, if you want to stand up and gather together, we'll sing the peace song. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Let there be peace on earth, the peace that was meant to be. With God as our power, united all are we. Let us walk with each other in perfect harmony. Let peace begin with me. Let this be the moment now. With every step I take, let this be my joyous vow. To take each moment and live each moment in peace eternally. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me.